Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to discuss about the lambdas in Kotlin. So in the previous one, we have discussed about the functions in Kotlin and we have seen how powerful the functions in the Kotlin are. And we have seen various types of function, how we can destructure the functions, and also we've seen various ways to declare the functions, right? Now, one benefit of using a function is that when you declare any function, then the thing is you can reuse it as many times in your code base wherever you require it, right? You don't have to write the same logic again and again, correct? But there are some times when you just require a particular logic which is only used once or twice, and for that you don't actually need to declare a function, and that can be a very shorthand logic, right? Suppose here is a function we discussed, that is a add function, which takes two variables and it adds them and it returns the sum of the two numbers, right? Now in this case, suppose we want to use this add logic, but there are only one or two instances in our code base where this is used. So in that case, there is a way to do it more efficiently rather than to declare a full-fledged function, and that way is known as lambda expression. Okay, so we'll see how that works. So the first thing about lambda expression, how this syntax work is, let's go to the official documentation to see it. Okay, so this is the official documentation of Kotlin. You can find at kotlinlang.org. Now here it has given the lambda expression syntax. You should be following this documentation, because following this documentation will be very much easy, because it has everything that we are covering up. So here it says the full syntactic form of lambda expression is as follows. So it is something like this, right? So we can try it out also. Now it says that a lambda expression is always surrounded by a curly braces. So for you to signify that we are going to write lambda, you have to write a curly braces block. Okay, so that you have to declare, which will mean that you are going to write a lambda expression. Next is parameter declarations in the full syntactic form go inside curly braces and have optional type annotations. So this is a declaration of the lambda expression type. Okay, the way we declare that variable type, that it is an integer, a string, right? So this is how we declare a lambda expression type, that what kind of lambda expression it is, what parameter it takes, and what it returns, right? And it is optional also, because as you know that Kotlin has a feature of type inference, so it can infer the type itself once you declare the actual lambda expression. And this body of the lambda goes after this arrow. So here after this the body goes, if the inferred return type of the lambda is not unit, the last expression inside the lambda body is treated as the return value. Okay, so here if you don't declare, or if something is not inferred as a unit type, that you are not returning a unit type, then the last expression whichever you write, whether it is a addition operation or some kind of comparison operation, so it is considered as a return type. You don't have to explicitly write a return x plus y. Okay, we'll see how it works. So let's check it out. So first thing is, we'll do the same sum. We'll write the input type first, and then you have to start a curly block. Then we will say x of type int, y of type int, and it says x plus y. Now this is how we have declared a lambda expression. Now this one is as similar to this thing. Okay, so we pass to integer variable and we return the sum, right? So similarly here also we are doing the same, but in the form of a lambda. Now this sum is not a function, but it is a function reference. Okay, so to call the reference, we have to write sum and then we have to pass the values. So if we pass 4 comma 5, we need to print actually, so let's put it inside the print, and then we'll run the Lambda. So you'll see that it's compiling. Yeah, so here comes our result 9, which is perfect, right? So this is perfectly fine. But even if you remove this part, the Kotlin will automatically infer the types, because you have already said that x is of type int, y is of type int. So x plus y means you have to add the two numbers and return that thing. Now suppose you don't want to return, you just want to print it. So if you print this type, if you print x plus y, now here the thing is, it is returning a unit. Okay, as you can see, the print function returns a unit, right? So here you are returning a unit. So if you print here and if you run the program again, then you will not get 9, but you will get kotlin.unit. But since you have invoked this function, so because of invoking this function, it is printing 9, but actually it is returning the value kotlin.unit. Okay, so that you need to understand. We can declare something like val message equal to, just start the Lambda and then write println, and you can say Kotlin is amazing. Now this is a very simpler form of how to write a Lambda. So you just have to invoke the reference to the Lambda. So once you invoke the reference to the Lambda, it will print Kotlin is amazing. So this is how we are invoking the Lambda. There can be some instances like suppose so you can also write a reference like generate equal to, now suppose you don't want to pass anything but you want to return something. Okay, so for that also you can pass a Lambda and then simply you write an expression. Okay, so suppose I want to write an expression like 2 plus 3. Okay, and I call generate. I'm not passing anything because I don't want to pass any argument. I'm just returning an expression. So this also completely works fine, right? Let's include in print so that it actually prints the thing. If we call the function inside print, it's printing 5. So this is also a way to do so. Suppose you have a reference and you want to do some kind of multi-line logic is there in the lambdas. Okay, so for that I'll just say some logic, and for that I write a Lambda. There is int and y is also an int. I write this, but I don't want to just do addition or something. I want to check whether x is greater than y, and if x is greater than y, then I want to do x plus y, else x into y. Okay, something like this. Okay, the purpose here is to state that how to write a multi-line logic in the lambdas. So what you need to do is you need to break into the another line, and then you can write here your logic. Suppose x greater than y, then x plus y, else x into y. Okay, so this is how you write the logic. Now if you call the logic here, some logic, and you pass something like 8 7, and now if you run the Lambda here, you'll get 15, right? Because x greater than y, so it will add both of them and it will return something like this. So basically within the Lambda also you can write multi-line logic, but remember that the last expression, if there is an expression and it is the last statement in the Lambda, then it will be treated as it will directly treat it as a return statement. Okay, so this is how you can do something. Now there is another way for Lambda, that is we can declare a function, something like something we need to calculate, and first expression takes an integer, but we can also pass a Lambda. So let's see how we can pass a Lambda. So you have to declare a Lambda. Suppose we will take a parameter of type int and we will return a integer, and finally we will return something integer from the function. Okay, now let's declare a val z equal to x plus y into x. So here what we are doing is z is a sum of x and it is invoking a reference y with the parameter of x. Okay, and then simply we are returning z here. This is a kind of logic that we have written. So as you can see that this function is taking a lambda as a parameter. Okay, so basically we are passing a function as a parameter. This is another example of how functions are that much powerful in Kotlin that we can treat the function as an parameter and pass as an argument. Okay, so now we need to call this function. So let's see how we will call this function. We will say some calc. Now we will pass the value of x first of all, and then we need to pass a lambda. So lambda, we just have to pass the logic. The actual value will be, we have already specified that you have to use the value of x, so it will be using that. So we will say that suppose we take a variable known as a of type int and we pass it as a or a into 2, something like this. Okay, and it will return something because it is, so let's say it is returning a result. We will just print the result. So let's run the function. So it is giving 15. How? First of all, 5 is getting passed here. So here x value is 5. Now this 5 value, what we have said here in the logic is y is being calculated based on the value of x, right? So, and here we have provided the logic for the lambda. So wherever this variable a is written, here the value of x will be passed. So x value is 5. So x will be 5 will be passed here. So the logic will become 5 into 2, which is 10. Okay. So y of x will become 10. So 5 plus 10 is 15 and 15 will get returned. I know this kind of functional programming you have been seeing for the first time maybe, and it would be a bit hard to digest. I would suggest you to go through this documentation as well as to this code that we are discussing here to see how this is useful. Okay. Now there is a concept, something known as of trailing lambda. So what trailing lambda is, if you are passing function as the last argument as a lambda, okay, then you can put the lambda outside of this block. What I mean is just copy paste this lambda, control X and paste here. So this syntax looks quite nice and it works perfectly fine. But remember that it only works when the last argument or the last parameter of the function is a lambda. Then only this kind of things work. So, and probably the good practice in the Kotlin is to if you are using if you want to pass a lambda to a function, then you should pass it as a last parameter. Okay, so that is also a good practice in that sense. So these were some of the things related to lambda expression. There is a whole lot to discuss here, but I don't want to confuse you currently, because as we'll progress towards more topics, you will see that we are using a lot of lambdas there, so you will get the idea of how this can be used. And final thing that I can discuss is, let's discuss that also. Suppose there is a function, I will name it as one param. I'm just naming a function so to make you understand the concept. It takes only one parameter. Okay, or let's remove this one parameter function. Suppose we take something like one param and we have a lambda which takes one parameter and returns an integer. Okay, so in this case we can just use a keyword it. So in this case where the lambda is taking just a one parameter, so in this case Kotlin provides us a implicit variable known as it, it. Okay, small, both are small. Okay, so this is a variable that the Kotlin itself provides implicitly. What we can do is we don't need to specify a particular variable of particular type. So if this is the expression, then how we will actually be doing it? We will be doing something like x of type int, and then suppose we want to write a logic x into 2. Okay, this is how we will generally do it. But Kotlin says if you have only one parameter, then in that case we will implicitly provide you with a variable, that is it, and you don't have to explicitly mention the type of it. You just need to write your logic. So I can say it into 2. Okay, now if I call this one param and I pass suppose 10, then you will see that we get 20. This expression is similar to if we pass something like this, x of type int, and then in the after this arrow we write x into 2. It is as simple as that. But this it is only applicable if you have only one parameter, that you should remember. Okay, so even we can simplify this also. We can simplify this to it into 2. So this also works. So if you run the code, you will see that 15 is still coming. So these were some of the concepts of the Lambda expressions in Kotlin, and this makes the functions in Kotlin much more powerful. As you can see, it is why the writing code in Kotlin becomes more easier, and it is more understandable also. Yeah, if you are first time into the functional programming background, then you may be finding these kind of syntaxes as some kind of weird syntax, or maybe it may take some time for you to understand. But I would suggest you to go through it and yourself write some functions, write some lambdas, try some combinations, okay, with all the rules that I have already stated for lambdas. So I hope it would be really helpful for you to understand the lambdas. There are one or more things that makes and takes the functions in the Kotlin to next level also. So we will discuss about them also in the upcoming and later videos. But for now, combining how we have wrote the functions here, and how we are going to, and how we are and the way we have discussed about the lambda expression here, the functions in Kotlin are really very much powerful, and most of the time you will see that this kind of code you will see more frequently. Okay, of course object oriented programming concepts are there, and that concept is used, but still this functional style of code is highly preferred and highly used also. So I hope you have liked the video. Please press the like button. If you are new to here, please subscribe to the channel for more such content coming. We have a Kotlin series going on. Other than that, you can also follow the Spring Boot MongoDB project series if you want to learn Spring Boot and MongoDB there. So you can follow that also. I will see you in the next one. Till then, bye bye.